On New Year's Eve, my mother-in-law broke down my bathroom door to find the money she already believed belonged to her. But she didn't expect me to be ready. On December 29th, my life changed with a single notification. I still remember the screen of my phone, glowing in the darkness of my kitchen. It was cold outside, night was already falling, and I was sitting with an almost cold cup of tea in my hands. I hadn't even had the strength to finish it. I had spent the day going over my finances, thinking about the mortgage, the New Year's groceries, about everything that was always missing, all the time. Then that message arrived. Credit received 7 million rubles. I was frozen in place. 7 million. I kept rereading the line over and over, as if the numbers would disappear, as if it was a mistake, as if by blinking, everything would go back to normal. But no, the money was really there, real, available, mine. This money came from my uncle, my mother's brother, a solitary, distant, almost mysterious man whom I had only seen a few times in my life. He had no wife, no children, no close relatives. Before he died, he had sold his apartment, moved his savings, and organized his affairs in his own way. It was complicated, almost opaque. But the result itself was simple. I, Elena Smirnova, an ordinary accountant, married, in debt, exhausted, had just inherited enough to change my entire life. 7 million was enough to pay off the mortgage, finally breathe, buy a decent car, do the renovations we had been putting off for years, maybe even have that baby I dreamed of in silence, the one I didn't dare imagine because of money, instability, the fear of not making it. For the first time in a long while, I smiled to myself. I wanted to call my husband Oleg, to tell him the news, to cry with relief, to laugh, to dance in the middle of the kitchen. But something held me back. An intuition. That kind of dull, quiet feeling you learn to listen to after several disappointments. A little inner alarm that goes off just before disasters. Because Oleg, for some time now, hadn't been the same. He was nervous, distracted. He was hiding his phone. He talked about big opportunities, projects, things that were about to finally work out. And his mother, Galina Ivanovna, that woman who had always thought I wasn't good enough for her son, had suddenly started to become gentle, almost affectionate, too affectionate. She called me every day, asked how I was doing, told me to take care of myself. And above all, she invited herself to our place for New Year's. There was nothing innocent about it. So I decided to keep quiet, at least until after the holidays. The next day, December 30th, they arrived together. Galina Ivanovna had brought a huge suitcase, which was absurd since she lived barely an hour away by train. Oleg was carrying her things, looking tense, his eyes avoiding mine. As soon as she walked through the door, she threw herself at me with almost theatrical energy. "My little Elena, you've lost so much weight, and you're so pale. Are you working yourself to death or what?" She hugged me as if we had always been close. Her overly sweet perfume gave me a headache. I smiled politely. I took it in stride. Then, Oleg told me, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, that he had set his mother up in our bedroom and that we would sleep on the couch. His mother supposedly had back pain. I just nodded. The apartment belonged to me before the marriage, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to ruin the mood even before New Year's Eve. All evening Galina acted as if she were at home, period. She was giving orders in the kitchen, criticizing the way I cut the vegetables, correcting the table, moving the plates around, sighing as if everything depended on her. And then casually, while slicing some cold cuts, she asked a question that was far too nonchalant to be innocent. "By the way, Elena, your uncle, may he rest in peace, did he end up leaving you anything? An inheritance? Or was it just talk?" I looked up at her. She didn't blink. I immediately sensed that this question wasn't improvised, that it was prepared, weighed, maybe even rehearsed. So I lied. I told her that my uncle had only left an old bookcase filled with worthless books. She pursed her lips, disappointed. The books and the apartment were sold a long time ago. The money went to medical expenses. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. She exchanged a glance with Oleg, a look so quick that most people would have missed it, not me. "What a shame," my husband murmured, looking away. "We thought that maybe finally we could have changed the car." I turned my head toward him. "With what money, Oleg? We have a mortgage." He didn't answer. He just shrugged. But at that moment, I understood. They were already thinking about it. They weren't even sure the money existed yet, but in their minds, it already had a purpose. And that purpose, it wasn't me. On December 31st, I got up early to prepare dinner for the evening. I wanted to keep busy, fill the silence, stop my thoughts from going in circles. In the kitchen, it smelled of boiled vegetables, roast chicken, mayonnaise, celebrations, childhood. And yet deep down, I felt that a storm was coming. Around 3 in the afternoon, Oleg and his mother went out onto the balcony. The door was left ajar because of the heat from the oven. I was cutting cucumbers at the table and I heard everything. Not just a few words, not fragments, everything. Oleg was speaking in a low voice, but his mother didn't have that instinct. "Wait a bit, Mom, don't put pressure on me. After the holidays, I'll work on her. She's gentle. If the money is really there, she'll end up giving in." And Galina's icy voice replied, "Don't let this slip by. That girl is stupid. She'll waste it all on clothes or give it to her mother. That money is more useful to us. We've already spotted a dacha with a Russian bath, remember? We'll buy it in my name so that in case of divorce she gets nothing. And you'll take the car." My knife slipped from my hands. The sound of metal hitting the tiles rang out through the whole kitchen. Silence on the balcony. I bent down, picked up the knife, but my hands were shaking so much that I could barely breathe. "That girl is an idiot. I'll work on her. We'll put everything in my name." In a single minute, everything became clear. He didn't want to help me. He didn't want to build something with me. He wasn't dreaming of a future together. They were just waiting for the right moment to manipulate me, drain me, bypass me, take my inheritance, buy a house for her, settle his affairs, and leave me standing in the middle of the ruins. A few seconds later, Oleg came back into the kitchen with a fixed smile on his face. "What are you dropping like that, Lanusia? Need any help?" He put his arm around my waist. I thought I was going to throw up. That sudden tenderness, that gentle voice, that act of a loving husband, everything reeked of lies. I calmly pulled away. I smiled too. "No, thank you. Go see your mother." That evening, while he was playing the bon vivant, I made my decision. I wasn't gonna cry, I wasn't gonna make a scene. I wasn't going to give them the spectacle of a betrayed woman. I called my mother and told her everything. She listened to me without interrupting. And when I finished, her voice became as hard as steel. "Elena, listen to me carefully. You take that money out of your account immediately. You secure everything right now. You do the procedures online, you sign whatever needs to be signed, but you don't leave a single kopeck within reach of those people." My mother has always been more clear-headed than I am. As for me, I often still hoped for the best in others. She didn't. That night, while I was serving the salad, enduring the hypocritical toasts about the united family, lasting love, and wonderful plans for the coming year, I smiled. Galina gave me some cheap kitchen towels, with that little satisfied smile people have when they give very little but still think they're being generous. Oleg was already talking to me about luxury vacations, about seas, about 5-star hotels, as if everything was already settled. They saw me as a goose that lays golden eggs. They didn't know that the henhouse was already empty. On the morning of January 1st, I was woken up by a faint noise in the entryway. The apartment was silent. Oleg was still sleeping soundly. I got up without making a sound and looked into the hallway. There, bent over my handbag, was Galina Ivanovna. She was rummaging through it. Not discreetly, not by mistake. She was really searching through it. She took out my wallet, opened the pockets, turned out the compartments, flipped through my passport, felt the linings, looking for something, a bank card, a document, some kind of proof. I coughed. She jumped so hard that she dropped my bag. Everything spilled out onto the floor. Then, as shameless people know so well how to do, she immediately straightened up with an offended look on her face. "Oh, Elena, you scared me. I was just looking for a napkin." A napkin in my handbag. On the morning of January 1st, I leaned against the wall and watched her pick up my things with her trembling fingers. I didn't shout, I didn't explode. I just told her very calmly that there was a napkin in the kitchen, not in my personal belongings. Then I went back to the bedroom and woke Oleg up. "Your mother is rummaging through my bag." He opened one eye, sighed, then said, "You're exaggerating." That's when I understood something essential. It wasn't just his mother. They were in it together. Later that day, I went out, pretending to have a migraine and to buy some medicine. When I came back, I immediately saw that the room wasn't as I had left it. My clothes had been moved, the papers were no longer arranged the same way. The box where I kept old documents was slightly open. They had done it again. They were looking for my statements, my contracts. The trace of that money. That evening, Oleg came into the kitchen with a closed-off expression. This time he was no longer playing the loving husband. "We need to talk." I knew very well what about. "Money," he said. I replied that there was no money. Then his mask fell. Suddenly his voice changed, and so did his look. He slammed his fist on the table and spat in my face that his mother had seen the message on my phone. 7 million. He knew it. He knew it. He was just waiting for my confession. Then he grabbed me by the shoulders. "I need that money. I have a debt, that's it." The truth was finally coming out. Not the whole truth, no doubt, but enough. A debt of 3 million, he told me. A bad investment, a failed deal, dangerous people. He needed to be saved. I had to get him out of there. I crossed my arms and looked at him. 3 million in debt and the other 4 for your mother's house, is that it? He turned pale because he realized I had overheard the conversation on the balcony. The next morning, January 2nd, the atmosphere was unbearable.